And hey, welcome back to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, I'm Ray Coburn, licensed realtor with the state of Oregon with eXp Realty. If this is your first time again, today we're going to be covering first time home buyers and why sitting on the fence could cost you extra in the long run. Today with me, I have my guest, Patrick Levenhagen. He is a mortgage lender, loan officer with Nova Home Loans based out of Springfield, Eugene, Oregon. So, Pat, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ray. I appreciate your invitation to be on this podcast, and I look forward to teaching some people some things about lending.
Awesome. So, going through what we had previously talked about before the podcast had happened, we were basically trying to figure out there's a lot of folks that are potentially listing or renting right now, and maybe they're sitting on the fence and going, "Hey, I'm going to wait until rates drop down, and maybe something good will happen where maybe I'll get into a home," or maybe they've been turned down before and they're stuck in that mindset where they just can't get out of, maybe a home is never the right investment for me. But so now we have more new products that actually assist, that you could potentially help them with by getting out of that rental and, basically making their landlords wealthy and rich or paying somebody else's mortgage. So can you tell us a little bit about what a first-time home buyer could expect when maybe potentially working with you as a loan officer?
Sure, absolutely. There's a lot of different programs and different advantages to being a first-time home buyer. We have, different products that can even, down to 0%, 0% down payment. We have 3% down for conventional and 3.5 down for FHA. There's different breaks if you fall within a certain income. You can get certain breaks on interest rate and mortgage insurance that helps out. It's nice. And some of those aren't even, you can even use them if you're not a first time home buyer, but a lot of them are first time home buyer specific.
Right. And so, Pat, one of our main questions here that I've gotten from some other folks that were on the Facebook podcast questionnaire type thing, a lot of folks are feeling frozen in the mindset of they just don't know where to go. They're like, is this the end of the season? When is it good? When is it the right time? When is it a bad time to buy or get into a property? And so what I always try to typically explain to them as their buyer's agent, on that side is, the over year appreciation on their asset on an investment. So why is it that you feel as a loan officer, Pat, that why so many first time home buyers feel frozen right now?
I mean, it is a scary thing, and it wasn't long enough ago that interest rates were very, very low, and people like to think that, well, that's coming back, and it isn't. And so there's that question too. People don't want to feel as though they've been taken advantage of, or bought something that, almost like in a store, now it's on clearance and you already bought it, kind of a thing. But that won't happen. It's an investment that will continue to grow. And the rates right now, historically, this is just basically what rates are. If you take the highs and the lows, 6% is roughly where we are. Of course, depending on all your qualifications, but that's kind of the average over time. And so it's not a bad time. And if you're waiting for, 2, 3, and 4% rates, you're probably not going to buy a house.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I see the same thing that most people think that they need to have everything figured out before they even talk to a realtor or a loan officer, and that's just simply not the case, right? That's why
Right.
we're here. And I think that once first time home buyers get that feeling or that understanding that we as licensed professionals, we're here for them to help represent them. We have legal fiduciary obligations to them, right?
Yes.
And so once that that key aspect is there in representation. Sometimes I have to explain that pretty thoroughly for some of my first time homebuyer clients. Like, look, I'm here for you. And sometimes it's funny. I always have to explain, like in the state of Oregon, the way that the court systems look at representation as a realtor for a first time homebuyer or even any buyer. And also with the representation under a seller, like they look at our fiduciary obligation like one step below marriage. Um,
Mhm.
and it's kind of funny, but it's also kind of very serious at the same time. It shows that we have an obligation to make sure that our clients are, basically in a good transaction, in a safe, secure. I always refer that, you know, you get these professionals on here to make sure that on your team to make sure that the oil's changed and that it's not overheating, that the brakes,
Mhm.
check the fluids, stuff like that before you buy the car. So,
Right.
and I put that in simple terms, but and the truth is that most buyers that are sitting on the fence right now aren't actually waiting for better conditions. They're waiting for certainty. And the real estate never gives 100% certainty, right?
Right.
Yeah. So next part, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Pat. It's waiting. So the buyers that are waiting are often thinking that waiting is safer, but what does that really cost them in the long run, Pat?
Yeah, well, it can cost them. It can cost them a lot of money when we think about the average appreciation of a home is 3 or 4% yearly over a long period of time, and the idea of it of real estate and gaining equity is if your house is a $300,000 house, you're gaining 3 to 4% on $300,000, but you might only be in that house $10,000. So you could appreciate potentially as much money in 1 year as you actually have in the house. You could double your outlay in 1 year. Depending on the market, it's just really it's something where that if you buy an ounce of gold and gold goes up, well, you've had to buy the whole ounce of gold in a house. You only put 3 or 5 or 10% of the investment in, but you're making equity on the whole 100%. It's really an amazing situation.
Right. And so the next thing, like completely off topic here, well, not off topic, on topic, but kind of indirectly, me and you are both landlords, right? We're both
Yes.
investors. And so I'm kind of, well, I'm not really stabbing myself in the foot, but really I think we both are
Right.
here with the same mindset that we want to educate first time home buyers. And so with that, what I'm getting at is, as a landlord, like I typically want my tenants to rent for maybe a year, 6 months to a year, and then eventually buy a home of their own, right? Because that's the ultimate goal. Like it's great for us because we're getting paid from their tenancy, and the longer
Mhm.
that we can keep them in that um, tenancy agreement, then we're basically helping us pay for our mortgage. But at the same time, is that really good for them as tenants, Pat?
No, I mean, and sometimes, let's say you're just getting established. Maybe you just got married or whatever, and you're getting your feet underneath you. It doesn't certainly doesn't hurt to as you're establishing a household to maybe rent for a year or two. But you should always have your eye on the prize of owning your own home. You don't have to worry about whether you can pound a nail in the wall or change the color or what you want to do outside. It's yours, and you can do with it as you please. It's kind of freeing that way to my clients.
Right. And so when it comes to, so what I typically suggest for my first time homebuyer clients, and me and Pat have done, not always, but have done quite a few deals together, and it has been a pleasure working with you, Pat. But one thing that I can say is working with first time home buyers, when they come to me, they're like, "Hey, Ray, I want to buy a house. I'm currently renting, and I don't really know where to start. Can you hold my hand?" Basically. And so when I get started, first thing I'm like, "Hey, you know what? Let's get you pre-approved. Find out where you're at." and they go right to Pat. So first time home buyers, if you're looking for, I think a lot of first time home buyers, when they go to purchase homes, they look for the realtor first and then they find the lender. But it should be the other way around. They should
Ideally.
find the lender first and then find the realtor.
Right. Well,
Because
nobody wants to buy a loan; they want to buy a house. So,
exactly.
and a good thing about the process, and my company especially, is one of the things that I find people get concerned about is their credit. They're, either they don't know what their credit is, they're afraid they may have bad credit, or it's just always something that's a concern. And at Nova, we have free credit counseling and free credit repair for everyone. So it doesn't matter if you don't have credit or if you have bad credit. We'll work with you. It doesn't matter if it takes 1 month, if it takes 3 months, if it takes a whole year. My team of specialists is happy to work with you to get that portion of that taken care of. And so don't hesitate and think, well, I have to wait until everything's perfect. We'll help you get it perfect.
Right. And that's always been a great product that I've seen you, Pat, work with a lot of first time home buyers, where we're currently working on some clients right now that are working with you and your credit repair services. So that's been a blessing to them as well too. I'm pretty sure that they appreciate that service that you offer. So now getting into the nitty gritty about first time home buyers, a lot of them, they're concerned like, well, I'm living from paycheck to paycheck. And so I always think, what about if that next paycheck that you utilize is towards your mortgage, right? And what about if that next rental payment is towards your mortgage, something that you'll own? I always like to say, just theoretically, like if 20% of your paycheck every month went to going back into your own savings, how would you feel about that? And they're like, well, that would be great, but what do you mean by that? Well, I mean like equity. So again, let's talk about rent. So every month someone waits, they're paying like 100% in interest to a landlord, right?
Yes.
Like 0% in principal. So what I mean by that is like they're paying rent on something that they'll never own. So building zero equity. So Pat, what can you say about folks in your professional experience and perspective? What can you say about folks that are paying 100% in interest and zero towards principal?
Yeah, to me it just seems like a waste of money to do that. I mean, like, of course, as a landlord, I appreciate people that do that for me, but for your own personal portfolio and in building your own wealth and potentially something, part of your retirement, having your own equity built it's amazing, and you don't even realize it. You have to live somewhere, and so you might as well be paying yourself to live in your own house.
Right. So then the next question is, I've just recently had this happen, where my current buyers asked me, what is equity? I like to say that equity is free money, right? So it's free money that basically your appreciation on your investment that you made initially, that you had to jump through all those hoops to get for your loan, your inspection, your appraisal, and then finally you moved in with all your boxes. You crossed that threshold to your new door on your new house, and you cut your lawn on your first home that you've ever owned, and then year over year, you get this thing called appreciation, or AKA equity. And the equity is something that can be utilized for potentially tax write-offs, right? And a lot more benefits towards different types of loans like HELOCs and equity lines of credit, which Pat can get into here in just a minute. But Pat, the number one question I think is on a lot of first-time home buyers' minds, and currently buyers that are maybe veteran home buyers that have bought before and just have, bought, now they have to sell, now they have to buy again, and they just don't know what's really out there. So the number one question for a lot of buyers that I see is, should I wait for rates to drop? Now, what's your answer to that?
No, that's an excellent question, because nobody knows what rates are going to do. We've been seeing some improvement on rates. Like I say, over the last year or so, rates are down, roughly 1%, maybe in some instances 1.5%. Um, the the expectations from the people that I listen to in the that only do that, looking at what rates will do. Um, the expectation is on a conventional upper fives, not even mid fives. Right now, they're just a hair. We're in the sixes, low sixes, of course, depending on your qualifications. But we may get another 0.5% lower. And in reference, in eighth of a percent on a standard home that I see, it's around $30 to $40 per month per eighth of a percent interest. Of course, depends on your loan size, but that's kind of in the ballpark. So if somebody says, "Oh man, I'm saving an eighth of a percent," it's about $35. So
Right. So would you say that kind of waiting for rates to drop is kind of a gamble, Pat? Like
it
for
is.
those.
Yeah, it's not only a gamble, but it doesn't. You're losing all of the equity that you would gain. Let's say if you're waiting a year, you lost those thousands of dollars in potential equity to maybe you're going to save $30, $40 a month, maybe. And we can always refinance when rates get down to that lower rate. You're not stuck for life uh, for that initial rate. So that's why the big saying is, you know, uh, buy the house, marry the house and date the rate. It's
Yes.
a temporary situation. The average loan is roughly 5 to 6 years, and then people refinance or sell. So rates get down low enough to make sense. We just would refinance you into that lower rate, and you've had that house that you've been gaining equity in over the same time.
So kind of elaborating a little bit more on date the house or own, what is it? Marry the house and
Marry
date
the
the
house,
rate.
date the rate. Yeah,
So a little bit of elaboration on that, right? So the house that you get today is the house that you get today, but the loan that you get today doesn't have to be the loan that you marry, right? It's
right.
something that you can refinance or fluctuate. It's a fluctuating aspect of owning a home. Um, and so this causes a lot of potential buyers that are currently in the market right now or sitting on the fence to have a lot more competition with other buyers once rates do drop. And
Hmm.
so those would be buyers that are waiting to get into a home are currently like, well, I'm going to wait until the rates drop to find that dream home that I've always wanted. I wanted a little garden or a little white fence out in front, some flower beds or whatever the case may be. Or a place to call home where I can have, my friends and family over for, parties or whatever. So a lot of alternating aspects when it comes to first time home buyers and the reason why folks want to buy their first home and what it means to them. I always take, as a buyer's agent, I always take it very personal. Once I step foot into that representation field for my buyers, I'm I'm completely on with them about making it personal. Every aspect of it, from the date that we sign our buyer rep agreement till the day we close, and even after, it's very personal because they've put in a lot of work. And to sometimes hear, and I think Pat, you also hear a lot of their stories as well too, of like where they came from to where they are now to get to where they want to be. And those dreams and goals and aspects are sometimes very inspiring. And like I've said many times on some of my videos, it can be emotional, and it does get to you, which is pretty fun. Well, neat, I guess, in some ways. And so with that, they're having to compete with those competition when those rates drop. And
Hmm.
so when they start to compete, then they get into these bidding wars. And
Right.
so sometimes they'll be paying more for a house than they really should have been had they not waited for rates to drop and got into that bid war or that competition with other buyers. Now, so Pat, about that, I've had buyers who waited for 2 years or maybe lower rates just to pay $50,000 more for the same house. Can you elaborate what maybe paying $50,000 more on a house might look like on a loan?
It would. I mean, it could. And I wish I had the numbers in front of me, but yeah, either you're having to come in with more down because maybe you don't qualify for $50,000 more, so maybe you don't even get to have that house anymore, and you have to have a lesser home, or maybe it ends up costing you another, say 40, 50, 60, or $100 or $200 more a month for that home that's now more money. For a number of years prior, when rates were cheaper, um, and there was a huge demand, that was kind of the thing, and it was a seller's market. And if you wanted repairs, they said next, and they would just sell it to somebody else. If you needed closing costs or something, they would just say next. We're not giving you that, and you couldn't get the house. The tides have turned a bit right now. I feel, and personally, that from probably the beginning of the year up until the third quarter, we were in a neutral market, in my opinion, and I think that it's turned to a buyer's market again for this winter, at least until spring, where we're seeing buyers getting more concessions, closing costs, or sellers, buying down rate, or rate buy down, um, or less for the house. They're taking less for the house, and that's huge. So it's wintertime. This time of year is actually an amazing time to get into a house. We're talking. We're very end of December right now, and um, we get once taxes start getting filed and people are getting refunds, the market starts to heat up again, and then you're competing, like Ray said, with other buyers, and you're having to pay more, and you're not getting concessions, and um, so the best buys, it's almost like the clearance rack right now.
Right.
You can get the very best pricing right now because people really want to get those houses sold that maybe have been hanging around for a little bit.
Right. And so as of right now, as of this recording, it's December 23rd. Yesterday, December 22nd, my clients accepted an offer on a huge home. Pat, you saw the pictures of the listing,
It's
and
beautiful.
yeah, it's a big home. And even when the buyer's agent was walking through the home with their buyers, they were like, "This is a lot of home." And so those buyers are really happy to be able to get from their rental into their own home. Now they've got their own yard to mow. They've got their own upstairs, downstairs to kind of, enjoy their own peace of mind. And so one thing I've always kind of looked at in investment strategies, like I've gone from stocks to crypto to, I even had a crypto YouTube channel before back in the day when crypto first started. But so getting into investments, and Pat, I think you can elaborate on this too, is getting into real estate investments. Whenever you invest in your own, whether that's a single family residential home, income generating property, or maybe just that vacant lot out in the middle of the forest, they're not making any more land. They're not making any
Nope.
more property, right? So with that being said, it's continuously appreciating. So that appreciation is against a hedge against inflation. So that hedge against inflation is basically what I look at it as an insurance, that maybe you're not paying like a life insurance or a medical insurance, that maybe one day when something, God forbid, something happens, that maybe you don't have to fall back on. And so falling back on your investment like real estate can provide that sweet equity, that could, you can cash out on that. So Pat, I know you do some reverse home mortgages, and I think
Hmm.
we'll get
Hmm.
into that maybe later on in another episode. So just kind of fueling the fire for our viewers for today on what our next episodes might be looking like as far as like reverse mortgages, DSCR loans, stuff like
Right.
that. But as far as first time home buyers, I think that, and you can second this or give your opinion on this, but I think that getting into real estate right now is not only just a hedge against inflation, it's a protection on your finances. It's a secondary bank account that
Yep.
continues to build appreciation and value over time, right, Pat?
It is absolutely no. It's never a bad idea, and I'm not just saying that because that's what I do for a living. It's I practice it in my own personal life. It's just huge. It's how most wealthy people have made their money. Is through real estate.
Yeah. So one thing I'd like to try to tell our viewers today is, getting started doesn't mean committing to buying tomorrow, right, Pat?
Right.
Um, it just basically means like getting educated rather than just buying tomorrow. Some of the things that I see on a realtor side means that like so, what home? What I typically tell my buyers is what home fits your lifestyle, what neighborhoods make sense to you, what monthly payment feels comfortable to you. And then I pass that back over to Pat. And then Pat takes that and basically makes the magic work. And so, Pat, when folks come to you saying, I, besides no, right? What?
I don't like the no. I like the maybe the not yet. And one of the terms that I've always used is sometimes buying a home is an event, and sometimes buying a home is a journey. And there may be some things that you have to do, because you didn't do them earlier in life. The building the credit, the this, the that, and it can take a little bit of time, but it's well worth it.
Right. And so, Pat, when a buyer comes to you that that is a first time home buyer that has not been through this process before, um, they're like, "Hey, Pat," and I'll just kind of role play here for a minute, if I may. So, hey, Pat, I'm looking to buy a house. I just found that my credit score on Credit Karma was like 700.
Mhm.
So Pat, I want to buy a house. I have some money saved up. I have a full time job, and I'm making payments on a car about $300 $400 a month. So Pat, what would be the first step or the process that a first time home buyer might expect from working with you?
Right. Well, initially, I love an office visit when I can get an office visit. Otherwise, it's a phone call that averages between a half an hour, an hour. And for the very first thing I want to know is, what are your plans? Tell me a little bit about what you want and what you want to do. What are your life plans? I want to know everything there is to know about you. I want to know about your family. I want to know um, just where you are now and where you hope to be in the future, so we can kind of work through a plan. So I'm an advisor, and I have to know the whole picture. I want to know the whole picture so that I can get you in the right program and the right setting for you to succeed. So we talk about that, and then I go into, do you have any idea what your credit might look like? And then we kind of talk about that. Credit Karma, I like to say plus or minus 40 on Credit Karma. Um, and I explain that we do have credit services available if that's a necessity. And then we talk about income and how does that look, and are you salary, are you hourly, or commission, because those all are counted differently. And I kind of touched through everything that has to do with the credit, the income, and the assets. I think of it as a three-legged stool. You need those three things: the credit, income, and assets. Your stool's going to fall down. And so I kind of touch on all of those things, so there's no surprises. The initial conversation either kind of lets them know if it's going to be uh, an event or a process, and if they're willing after that, then we go into an application, and then I go through that, and we have a phone call, um, and go over what that looks like. It's seamless, and it's completely painless. There's never been any broken bones or blood. So.
Right. So, Pat, one thing I like to try to do is we're kind of maybe in the middle of the podcast for today. Uh,
Mhm.
One thing I like to try to do is try to give clear and concise steps. So, I think number one step for first time home buyers or buyers is to first contact a realtor or a loan officer like Pat or myself. And especially if you're in Oregon, we're both here to help. And then the next thing, Pat, I think is to get pre-approved, right? And what is the difference between pre-approval and pre-qualification? If you could share
No,
that.
that's an excellent question, and there are a lot of uh, lenders out there that they just do a quick pre-qual. You just say what you make, say what your your credit score is, and they'll say, hey, you're pre-qualified up to this amount of money and purchase price, and they'll and you might take that to your realtor and say, hey, I have this pre-qual letter from XYZ and I want to make an offer on a house. There's a lot of sellers that won't accept that because a pre-qual, like I say, is just there's no proof behind it. So I always work with a pre-approval, and that's all documents. I need pay stubs, I need bank statements, I need award letters if you're retired, for pension or Social Security. When I write a letter, it's as good as gold. I'm signing my name to that. So that's the difference. You may or may not be actually qualified with a pre-qual.
Right. And as a realtor working with buyers in that full representation I was talking about, there is a difference between non-exclusive and exclusive. So non-exclusive are basically representations for realtors that are looking to just show you like one or two homes. You can hop around to other agents, and you can basically, whoever is the agent that shows you that that property is the one that closes on it. However, you really want to make sure that you establish, as a first-time home buyer or a buyer, that you establish a relationship with your realtor. So to make your realtor feel like you got that connection, you would want to do an exclusive, most likely, because in that aspect, and most times than not, it's that your agent is supposed to be working for you, with you, to help you make your dreams of home ownership a reality. So with that being said, what I see a lot is in exclusivity when working with an agent, we want to make sure that we're looking at pre-approvals. Pre-approvals versus pre-qualifications on home loans. Pre-approvals make sure that there is no real confusion when it comes to what is your monthly mortgage payment going to be on X amount of dollars for your purchase home. For example, if you're purchasing like a $300,000 house, your monthly payment may be X amount of dollars a month. Now, with that knowledge, now you can say, wow, if I stay at 300, then that's doable for me. But hey, it's even better if I can find something a little bit lower than 300, because now I'm saving a little bit more money. And then the other aspect of that is a pre-approval letter helps the buyer's agent know what type of contributions, if any, are going to potentially be needed to make a given transaction or purchase go through successfully and smoothly. When the buyer's agent gets to submitting an offer and they're about 2 weeks from closing, inspections and everything have all been done, and then they find out that, hey, after the pre-qualification, now we got a pre-approval letter, but the thing is, now the buyers need $10,000 to close out of pocket. That's why you need a pre-approval letter, and that's why you need a really good realtor negotiating your terms. What was that, Pat?
No, I was just, Ray and I have worked on a number of different projects, and I've been amazed at what he can pull through with on his side. It's like, you actually got the seller to agree to that? He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So he's a good negotiator.
Sometimes it's like trying to find a needle in a haystack, Pat. Yeah. It really is.
Sometimes there's got to be a needle too. You can't have the haystack. Yeah,
absolutely. So, learning another part of the first-time home buyer sitting on the fence, waiting for too long, is number one. Like, this is the golden key I could feel as trying to get first-time home buyers to purchase their home, and why a lot of home buyers choose being homeowners, and why they struggle and fight so hard to remain homeowners as opposed to losing their house and going back to renting. And that falls down to education, learning the process, timelines, and what to expect. Some buyers now are prepared for like 6 to 12 months, and both are wins. So what I'm saying about the 6 to 12 months is those are buyers that are potentially on the fence waiting to buy, but maybe they're waiting for 6 to 12 months before they actually pull the trigger to get that purchase and that offer out there. And so, in that 6 to 12 months, if you think that you're maybe in that 6 to 12 month window in purchasing, first thing is contacting a realtor, such as myself, and then a realtor like myself would put you in touch with a loan officer like Pat, and then Pat would take it from there. If you're ready to buy, great. You're ready to buy. We can just take it easy until you're, in other aspects, because there's so many different cards at play, right, Pat? When somebody's
Hmm.
renting, they need to, finish their lease or terminate their lease before they can get into a home,
Right.
or maybe there's a contingency within that they need to sell a home before they can buy a home. And so there's a lot of pieces moving in this puzzle constantly, that we see. And so sometimes it does take, and sometimes a property is in probate, and we can get into that later on. But for the first time home buyers and buyers right now looking to actually maybe purchase here in the next 6 to 12 months, then obviously building credit, right?
Hmm.
Pre-approvals, making sure they have a little bit of money saved up for a potential
Right.
down payment, and reaching out to, loan officers like Pat, right?
Yeah, and sometimes, for a down payment, maybe you don't have the down payment, but your parents, I mean, and you can do gift funds and that sort of thing. And sometimes it takes a little bit of time to get that sort of thing, organized, trying to figure out, we can give ideas as to what might be necessary. We do have down payment assistance programs. We can go into that later, but um, if you're looking at putting, 3 or 5 or 10% down, maybe grandpa's going to help, or mom, or maybe you need to sell a car or something. Those things all take time if you want to do them correctly. Um, so give yourself a little extra time. Don't wait until the last minute to start worrying about that, and we can help with that sort of thing as well.
Right. So, Pat, I think, a couple times that we've actually worked on some deals together where renters have actually paid the same amount that they're renting for a mortgage. Can you
Yes.
kind of explain a little bit about what most of those case scenarios would look like without actually, talking too much about
Oh.
specifics, as these right here are all examples that we're going through today?
Right. No, no. I mean, there's, and there's as many um, scenarios as there are stars in the sky. There's, there. I work with, some of my uh, office mates in here have been in the business for 35 years, and and it could be like, I never heard of that before, because there's always something different going on, and maybe just a little bit different here and a lot different there, and there are ways to work through pretty much anything. So if you think, oh man, this is a hurdle that can't be jumped, maybe we put a step stool up there and you get over the hurdle that way. There's always a workaround somehow. So don't be thinking, I really want to buy a house, but this happened to me in the past, or I have this going on. We've been doing this for a very long time, and you're probably not the first one. So um, we're we're here to help, and we're very good at it.
Absolutely. So, before we get any further into this, I'll just take this moment here. So, Pat, if you want to drop some of your information here, just verbally go ahead and tell them, how can viewers or first-time homebuyers contact you?
Yeah, sure. I'm online. All you'd have to do look up my name online. It's easy to find. The company that I'm with is called Nova Home Loans. They're based out of Tucson, Arizona. They've been in the business since 1980. Very, very strong, secure company. We offer, just about anything from, VA, USDA, FHA, conventional, and homes and parks, and um, pretty much anything. If you're thinking you want to buy something, I have a way to finance it more than likely. Um, I say the easiest way is just online. I'm everywhere that way. I have a Google page and a video on YouTube. You can just give me a call.
Nice. Awesome. Thank you for that. So, next step I'd like to do is a couple myth bustings. So, number one myth is you need 20% down or you can't buy a home. Number two, you need perfect credit, which is also not true. You need a plan, not perfection. And then number three, talking to professionals locks you in. So, Pat, on number one, do you need 20% down to purchase a home or you just can't buy a home?
Right. No, we can, we have, there's 0% downs and is, VA, of course, and USDA is at 0% down loans. We also have down payment assistance. If you don't have any money at all, you can borrow the down payment as well. And some of them have payments attached and some of them don't. And then, we have first time home buyer loans with that are conventional loans as low as 3% down payment. FHA is 3.5%. Then there's 5%, and then anything more than that, you could just, you put 7% or 8% or 10%. But yeah, it's anything from 0 on up.
Awesome. And then number two was you need perfect credit. Now, I think this is a very popularized idea and myth that you need perfect credit before you can buy a home.
Mm-hmm.
Pat, what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I hear that too. People think, well, I don't have an 800 score, or they'll come in and say, oh man, I don't have very good credit. It's only, 700 or 750. And I'm very happy with that kind of score. We can actually run if I brokered clear down to 500 credit score for FHA in house. I can do FHA for 580. If you're VA and don't have a score at all, I can finance you with that. Otherwise, conventional, I'd kind of like to see around 700, but not necessarily. But yeah, we go all the way down into the fives.
Right. And so then myth number three is talking to a professional locks you in. Now, I, as a realtor, I would say, and I've kind of already touched on this a little bit during this podcast, is exclusivity and non-exclusivity, or exclusive and non-exclusive. And this happens on either seller representation or buyer representation. And there's documents that you can request to do that. However, again, I think it would be best to establish that relationship with your trusted licensed professional, right? So then that way, your professional that you're working with can say, okay, this person doesn't trust me and is going to be working with other professionals. Well, I'm going to do the best that I can, but I kind of don't want to be the third wheel, on date night, right? I want to be in there. I want to get to make sure that I'm the one that they trust, that is going to be providing an outstanding service and doing the best that I can through an exclusive representation. However, non-exclusive representation is out there and it does exist. However, when working with professionals, by all means, there's always options out there. When it comes to finding the right rate and terms of those loans is something that a mortgage lender like Pat is able to do. Find multiple different types of products, right, Pat? So if you want to kind of elaborate that, within each one of those products, 203K FHAs, maybe DPAs, and finding out what those type of products might exist for first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm. Right, and we, when I get an application, I'm not just looking at a conventional loan. I'm looking at, I start out with the whole portfolio that I offer, and depending on your income, depending on your score, depending on this and depending on that, it kind of whittles it down to where there might in the end be 2 or 3 different products that we can talk about. And then it all depends on your comfort, what works for you, and we'll just kind of discuss it together rather than me saying this is what you're doing. Sometimes it ends up being you only have one choice, but usually you'll end up with a couple 3 different ways that you can go. And I always want my clients to be involved and know what we're talking about so they could explain it. If Uncle Bob asks them, what kind of loan, I want them to be able to say, hey, I'm in this kind of loan and this is what it looks like, and have an understanding and a comfort in that.
Exactly. So just we're kind of like 3/4 of the way through, maybe just a couple more minutes here. But kind of capping on what we've kind of talked about today is that if you're listening today and you feel unsure, here's just a few takeaways. You don't need to decide today, right?
Right.
But you do need to start learning and educating yourself. And so that's kind of what me and Pat are here today to help facilitate is that education. And waiting without a plan is what costs people the most, right, Pat?
Yes.
And then the best time to buy was actually yesterday. The second best time to buy is when you're prepared. So now, reaching out to Pat or reaching out to myself as realtors here in the state of Oregon, reaching out to Pat, helps get you that financial preparation. Reaching out to myself gets you in connection with Pat, who who helps get you prepared. And then once we get prepared, i.e., approved, then we start looking at homes that meet your criteria, homes that you really want to see, whether it has a garage or it doesn't have a garage, whether it's upstairs or you don't want an upstairs, you just want a single flat home with a pool or not a pool. And yes, some homes in Oregon do have pools, even though it's freezing. um, and so, then each property has its own liability and characteristics that an educated realtor such as myself might be able to point out. Hey, this property could potentially cost you some higher maintenance as opposed to maybe another property in the long run or short-term run, right?
Right.
So we look at stuff like roofs. As a buyer's agent, typically when I walk my clients through a property that they're prospecting, and I've already sent them a list of all the properties that meet their criteria, the next step is that we walk through a property that I'm pointing out things that, based off of my experience and working with particular home buyers that have different loan products, whether that's FHA, conventional, VA, USDA, and knowing what potentially those inspectors might be looking at, I can help kind of pinpoint that, like, that might be an issue. That might be an issue. And so that kind of helps buyers understand, hey, there's a lot more to buying a home than just saying, yep, this is the one I want.
Well, there might even be more than one lot, and you can explain to them what that would mean to them.
Exactly. So a lot of those key aspects goes into, house hunting or looking for homes outside of, just looking at a home on your own representation without having a licensed, trained professional or expert in real estate like myself or Pat. Can maybe make it to where you don't get the best deal that you could have gotten. There's a lot of sweet deals out there. There's a lot of sweet homes out there that are building equity possibly faster than other homes, and what that might look for you. And so having myself to help negotiate that, pinpoint those type of things with first-time home buyers or returning home buyers, and then facilitating, the right loan products for you, like what Pat can do. My number one favorite product in loans is working with first-time home buyers who may not have down payments. Now, I know you said we're going to talk about it a little bit later, but I'd kind of like to talk a little bit more about it now. And I think, Pat, you got a smile on your face already.
Oh, absolutely. It's just a good, and especially in this environment, inflation, everything's costed you. Maybe you had a savings, now you don't have a savings, something medical came up or whatever, you're all ready to buy a house, and your little boy broke his leg or something, and there goes the savings. But otherwise, as far as you have the other two legs on your stool, and we can come in with a down payment assistance loan, and it only works with an FHA loan, but we can give you a second mortgage that actually takes care of that down payment and get you into that house and start earning equity for yourself, instead of having to wait another 10 years to save up that down payment. You get in the house and just start making it your own.
Yep, exactly. And right where you make it your own is where you start building equity, because every home, um, eventually, it's kind of more eye opening as a first time home buyer or an investor, as opposed to more of a negative side. So most homeowners that buy homes typically flip their homes in about 5 to 7, maybe 10 years. Um, and within that, the reason why they sell is because the things that were making that they liked before, or that they've built on, they want something different, or they want something less, or some type of alternating puzzle piece changed in their life
Right.
again.
Yeah,
And so,
it's a thing of seasons. We
yes,
all have seasons in our life, and we have our single season, we have our married season, and then we might have kids and need something bigger. And then the kids grow up, the kids are gone. Maybe then you're it's just the two of you, the empty nest season, and um that house doesn't always fit you.
right, exactly. And sometimes neither does the cell phone plan.
Yes.
So what I sometimes get to mention to my buyers is, relating back to the cell phone plan, is if the home that you get right now is what you really want, and it makes sense and it works for this season, it doesn't need that doesn't mean that it has to work for next season and the season after and the season after. You can pull your equity out by selling or refinancing to maybe buy into another property that maybe you can expand on or grow. We can utilize the initial property that you have, and maybe do something like an income generating property,
Yeah.
where you now, as the property owner, are looking at maybe potentially buying a second home and utilizing your initial home to rent out to renters that used to be in your position now, right, Pat?
Hmm. No, absolutely. It's something that a lot of people do. They'll start out with the small home, and it doesn't really fit them anymore. And rather than just selling that and buying the next one, they might just get a cash out refinance against it to get some money out for the down payment for the next home, and then just turn that into a rental.
Right. And so, Pat, as we're about to wrap this up, do you have anything else that you would like to share with our viewers today?
Just that, you know, sitting on the fence is going to hurt your butt after a while. So just get out there. It doesn't cost anything to talk to either one of us. You don't have to sign a paper to talk to either one of us. And we can just let you know the hard facts. I'm not afraid to give them. And I don't candy coat anything, but we can start you on the path. Maybe you have a talk with us and you decide, oh man, I just don't think I ever want to do this. And that's your decision. We're here to let you know what's out there, what's available. And we'd love to help you out if we can.
Absolutely. And for those that are just tuning in today for the first time, and you didn't get my information, again, my name is Raymond Coburn, realtor with eXp Realty, licensed broker here in the state of Oregon with eXp. My phone number is 949-891-4426. You can find me basically all over the internet, specifically in Coos County and Douglas County, Oregon. And again, Pat, with Nova Home Loans. You can find him also on
Right.
Google and the internet. So just wanted to sincerely thank all of our viewers and listeners today. Share this episode with someone that might be sitting on the fence, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you so much for joining us.